Module 11, Monitoring. The aim of this unit is to explain to you how to establish a monitoring system. And by the end of this unit, you should be able to define monitoring, explain the need for monitoring, explain the methods of monitoring CCPs, state the requirements of monitoring systems, and identify the knowledge, training and competency of staff with regard to monitoring. So monitoring of controls. Monitoring, again, a definition is likely to come up in the exam. Monitoring is the planned observations and measurements of control parameters to confirm the process is under control and critical limits are not exceeded. These are required to confirm if a CCP, critical control point, is under control, target levels have not been breached, to identify deviations, to provide records for verification, complaints, due diligence. It permits rapid detection and correction. It can be manual, automatic, continuous, or at a set of frequencies. Types of monitoring include audits, visual inspections of premises, vehicles, or practices, measuring, for example, temperature, pH, or AW, competency checks, so checking the training of staff, organoleptic, using your senses, smell, for example, touch, sight, checking documentation and records. Calibration of thermometers. Do not use bimetallic stem thermometers as they cannot be calibrated and they are not that accurate anyway. They should not be used, again, they're not tip sensitive either. What you should use are thermocouple thermometers. And these are electronic thermometers which have a digital readout. You can calibrate them. In other words, you can check if they are reading the right temperature by, for example, putting the probe into iced water. That should give you a temperature of 0 degrees Celsius. And if you've got some boiling water and put the probe in there, obviously be careful for health and safety reasons, that should show 100 degrees C. Although I've usually found when I check boiling water, it never actually gets to 100 degrees C. So it'll be 98 or 99. Again, it depends what part of the planet you're on as well, whether you're in the north and south hemisphere, and what height you're at, what altitude, strangely enough. Monitoring systems should state what, how, where, who, when, and microbiological testing. The what, how, where, who, and when, that comes from Rudyard Kipling's famous Friends. Or what I used to use, coming from Wales, is 5 bums on a rugby post. The rugby post is H for how, and the other W is there, another 5 bums if you like. Anyway, besides the point. Staff training for monitoring critical control points. Must have knowledge of HACCP, knowledge of the importance of CCPs in monitoring, frequency of monitoring, knowledge of target levels and critical limits, competency to monitor and record, competency to take corrective action. Again, let's have a look at the last part of the HACCP control chart. We look at monitoring. So purchase, the monitoring there would be auditing, especially with large organizations. Checking the delivery temp. These are records which you would need to monitor and audit as well. Check the temperature and audit. Audit, check and record temperature 3 times a day if possible. Check and record temperature for each batch. Audit and for cooling under the 2 conditions there. Check and record temperature and audit. Now these are all different monitoring systems. Check, clean schedule, and audit. Audit and audit. So let's have a look at the legend. Perhaps I should have put that first to know what the D's and FH's stood for. So D is daily, W is weekly, FH is food handler, S is supervisor, and M is manager. So obviously, if we look at check delivery temperature, that should be done by a food handler. The audit can be done by, or should be done weekly, and that should be done by the manager. So it gives you examples of who should be doing them and how often. So key points in that section, we looked at monitoring, the need for monitoring, the methods of monitoring CCPs, the requirements of monitoring systems, and the knowledge, training and competency of staff with regard to monitoring.